live? Let's see if we are live. Yes, we are live. Okay. It is Friday, excuse me, February 6th, 2026 at 5:51 p.m. Central Standard Time. Apologize for being so late. I was working on getting all of these screenshots together. So, let's see here. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to make sure that things aren't going wrong here. They look like they're okay. Okay, so it's just I've got kind of a weird interface going right now. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. All right, so final episode of season 2. Let's go ahead and start talking about it. I took an enormous amount of notes here. In fact, I actually need to bring those up. That's why I had things split. There we go. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the season as a whole when we get to the end of this, but for now, we're just going to talk about individual. Let me see how loud this is. Because it's really loud for me, but it doesn't actually look like it's that bad on the desktop audio there, so I'll turn that down on my own headphones. All right. Let's see. Okay, opening scene here we got with basically the end of the Legion's civil war taking place, and specifically here this is in the aftermath of Cooper, well, the Ghoul, having basically set off a bomb within their encampment. So basically the little DMZ they kind of had in the middle no longer means anything. They're actually fully properly fighting. And this is when Legate Culkin, Lacerda Legate is his actual title, but I just like calling him Legate Culkin because we'll see in a minute. Obviously it's Macaulay Culkin, but regardless, let's keep going here. So he pulls the body of Caesar into the tent, which of course in the past we've been told Caesar has a note on him that will say who his next, who his successor is. So we got this other guy that comes on in here. By the way, I enjoyed the fact that part of his armor there is made up of an old Corvega part. But anyway, so he opens up the note, takes a look at it, a little crestfallen because it just says, "I am Caesar, I am the Legion, it ends with me." And basically gets up, stabs his fellow here to death, eats the note, takes the golden laurel off of Caesar's head, and walks out to the waiting crowd to proclaim himself Caesar, basically, and then says that we're going to go to... we're going to go to Vegas, and we're going to build a palace worthy of Caesar. Caesar's palace. And then... claims the march. It's just... oh, God, it's such a dumb joke. It's funny, but it's one of those things... it's like, I feel like there's... each season gets its one joke that's just, like, so broad... and you only get that one. And so, like, season 1 had the... sorry, one second here. I got a cat that's going to try to jump in my lap here. Season 1 had the mock execution that took place in Vault 4, where you've got... I cannot remember his name off the top of my head right now. The guy that plays Jerry Smith on Rick and Morty, and plays a character, a lawyer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Dr. Spachiman on 30 Rock. Whatever his name is, I cannot remember it off the top of my head. Cyril Figgis on Archer. He swings this giant sword up and then brings it down to slowly cut through the bindings. That reminds me of this joke in terms of, like, just stupid joke. But anyway, so I will say this is a little bit odd because, for example, sorry, my pop filter keeps coming loose here. Basically, they really take to him being Caesar immediately, and we don't see any sign of either bald Caesar or Asian Caesar, which I've noticed that a lot of people online call him Chinese Caesar, but I don't know. I just call them Asian Caesar. But anyway, yeah, the whole conflict seems to have been quite quickly diffused here. There's not even a question of like, oh, well, what did the note say from the crowd, so... anyway, moving on here. Yeah, the camp is fully united now, ready to march on Vegas. Next up, we got the intro, which is the intro splash screen, whatever you want to call this thing. What do I have? A title screen, that's what I got it as. Fallout logo on a Pip-Boy. Going to Vegas, this will be Lucky 38, and we get right back to where the Ghoul was speaking with Robert House, the AI Robert House, which again, we even get actually specific... confirmation here that he's dead. He says that his body has been a target for Wastelanders, and specifically he says that he's been poisoned, shot, and bludgeoned with a crowbar. I think that they're specifically just kind of breaking the fourth wall here and referencing how people have dealt with House in the past when they have not sided with him, because I don't know how his body could have been poisoned, shot, and bludgeoned with a crowbar, and like all of those. But yeah, anyway, because he even says something like, "I've over time become my body's become a target," or whatever. Anyway, oh yeah, okay, so we got more confirmation here of some interesting things here. Specifically, okay, so we'll go through the summary of what's happening here. He basically, the ghoul comes to an agreement with House about, I will not shoot the diode if you bring me to my family, or at least tell me where my family is. He actually even asks, what would happen if I shoot this thing? And he's like, well, there was only ever one, so we have confirmation here that there's only a single cold fusion diode. And he says, if you destroyed it, it would release all the energy it contains all at once, which I thought was kind of a dumb way to do it. I think that the more interesting thing to do here would have effectively have it be the case that the diode is basically pulling energy from some other dimension or something like that. But the idea that the diode itself is containing all this energy that would be suddenly released if you were to shoot it, and it would cause so much damage, it would release so much energy that would damage nearby planets, I think was kind of a misstep. Because, I don't know. That's just my personal thoughts on it. It is what it is. I think one of the coolest things, just as a quick sidetrack here, was in the Priests of Mars series of books on the Warhammer 40k universe, where there's a piece of technology that pulls energy from the future and the past in order to use it in the present. But anyway, let's see here. Oh yeah, we also learned then that House can stream his consciousness to, at the very least, this Pip-Boy, maybe all of them. Now, we already know that he was able to specifically watch and listen to everything that Cooper Howard saw when he was wearing his T-45 power armor. So it may be the case that he heard the Legion of Doom meeting through the same Pip-Boy that Cooper Howard was listening in on. It could be that he can listen in on any Pip-Boy. I mean, we don't really know. Again, it could just be that this one Pip-Boy that he can stream himself to. But I would not be even slightly surprised to find out that Cooper Howard was basically getting a lot of his background intel by just listening through Pip-Boys. And probably the reason he didn't get any information on the Enclave is I assume the Enclave was smart enough to go into the Pip-Boys and basically disable whatever listening feature there is here. Let's see here. Yeah, this really is a miracle technology, I'll say, with the diode. Because, like, I don't know how else to explain. Because, like, this is so far beyond anything else that humanity has at this time. It's almost like something that was passed down by a god or an alien species. But at the same time, we've been told that Moldaver is the inventor of it. So, anyway, moving on here. Okay, so we get to the next scene, and we have the Deathclaws entering the strip. And so, basically, we got the Freesiders who are just standing around watching for some reason. I don't really know why nobody thought maybe we should be armed. So yeah, Maximus gets up. Thaddeus comes running up with his arm under his arm and with his gun. And then the Deathclaw starts coming in and people start running. Thaddeus basically acts as almost like a guard where he's like, guys, go, 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 go. He's getting people out of the way. He's not just running himself, he's actually specifically trying to get people out of the line of fire. Maximus kneels down in preparation for this fight, and that's when he inadvertently activates some weapon systems on board this thing, which I believe the kneeling down basically indicates to the rocket pack, I'm about to fire you, and so he realizes that he can do that. It says hot dog, basically as a reference to his previous work with Paladin Harkness of the Commonwealth Brotherhood. Fires off some rockets. Ends up blowing up the first Deathclaw and wastes two of them hitting the gate, which, like, dude, you've got, what is that, 6 rocket tubes up there? He's got one on his wrist. Even if there's like a couple or maybe even 3 shots in each one of those, I would be making sure to get as much out of my fire as I possibly could. Now, maybe he doesn't have an enormous amount of control over this stuff. Maybe these things are self-targeting, something like that. But it just seems a bit reckless to fire off 3 in a single blast when only one of them was right in front of him. Anyway, though, we got the Freesiders running into the shops. Deathclaw charges. Maximus uses the jump jets, which he also discovers are in the suit at this point. Gets up in the air, fires off another shot, blows this Deathclaw in half. So, but then the third one comes in and basically starts beating him down. And we see there are at least 4 others coming in, 5 others, sorry, this one over here in the corner as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, coming in right off the strip to go mess with the people of Freeside. We then get back to the head of Representative Diane Welch, who Lucy has come across within the mainframe. We can see that there's some sort of equipment here that is somehow programming units via this this headset here, which, by the way, I just realized that that's what this is. This little headset here, this little indication here, this little icon, sorry, is a indication of the headset being worn. I assumed when I first saw this and was basically just like scrolling through, you know, I thought it was almost like an Assaultron head, but anyway, though, you can see here that it's programming 8 separate BCIs all at the moment, which, by the way, if you've missed it, that's what I've been calling these things, is brain-computer interfaces. The show refers to them as boxes, or they're going to be automated. It's like the automated man. Anyway, though, moving along. So we get a bunch of tape decks, and we see Lucy approaching, and we see this thing here, controlled forced tube food pump. I don't know how that's supposed to work. I don't know if you're aware of how typically tube feeding works, especially when it's going in the mouth. It's got to go to a stomach, and she has no stomach, so I don't know what to think about that. Like, I can fully conceive of it being possible to create some sort of technology at some point in the future with tech that we don't have, where you can make a head live on its own. But I don't know how you then feed that head with food. Like, even if this is just some sort of sludge that is got nutrients in it, I don't know how that reaches a non-existent stomach. It should be something where it's like intravenously fed with nutrients. But anyway, yeah, she turns out to actually be alive. Lucy freaks out a bit, and Diane Welch asks her to kill her. Lucy's not on board with this, but she's just begging her constantly, kill me. She gets annoyed, and she swings down the crowbar there, and the tape deck stops spinning. Hey there, Night Spirit. Good to see you. Hope you've had a good week. So yeah, we don't actually know, she says stop him. So I don't know that we actually have any real indication here as to when she was beheaded. I honestly think that this is something that Hank did, and I think it's entirely possible that she was within one of the biopods within the storage area. Now, the fact that she wants to be killed is no indication to me either way whether she is Enclave or not. Simply because, like, yeah, no, it was definitely Hank that did it. And I think that's who she's referring to when she says stop him. But it's like a question of, was she voluntarily within that pod there? I don't know why else she would have been stored on this site unless maybe she was a part of the Enclave. I mean, other than, of course, the fact that there are pods here just for Vault-Tec members, but it's very interesting that this stuff's going on here. She's part of the mainframe. Well, yeah, but it's a question. But later we find out that Hank was actually the one who changed the process to try to add personality to the people, because before that they were just literally like robots. So I think it's entirely possible that she hasn't been here until Hank specifically put her here, which means to me that she very well could have been within just like a cryopod up until this point. And the reason she looks a bit rough is because she's literally a head. And there's basically things aren't going quite right with the eyes and stuff like that because nutrients aren't finding their way to where they need to and stuff like that. But yeah, I think we're going to probably find out more about that in the future. I think we're definitely going to still get more flashback scenes with Hank. And we'll talk later about this, but I'm not entirely convinced that Hank is actually out of the picture going forward. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, Lucy slams that down, and we get next to the scene with Norm. Being hauled by Buds to give him a trial, they say. Ronnie says, at the very least. The entire time Claudia's trying to stop them. She's running through the crowd. You can see her back here. The rest of the Buds are fully on board with this. Claudia, they don't consider to even be a Bud. In fact, Ronnie even says, Claudia, you've been working here for a week. You're not part of this. And then she comes up, tries to stop it. Ronnie ends up throwing her into the wall. She hits a button that ends up summoning the elevator. If Fallout 5 is in Claudia. Yeah. Oh man, that was disappointing, the whole countdown on the website leading to nothing but a set tour, which, like, people were probably putting a little too much into that. I personally myself was putting a little too much into that. I was really excited for the potential that they were going to shadow drop a remake. But at the same time, people were like, damn it, Bethesda. And it's like, you know, Bethesda doesn't actually fully control this show, right? and the entire website is something that's run by the production company for, or even maybe just Amazon, but it's not Bethesda that's running that website. So being upset with Bethesda for having put this countdown is like they didn't put the countdown on the website. But anyway, okay. So yeah, the elevator door opens. This one bud goes over and looks down the elevator. She's like, oh, there's nothing there. Thank God. The rad roaches probably aren't as big as they said they would get after the apocalypse. And then the one leaps forward and immediately rips out her throat. And that's when we get dozens coming in. Now, I will definitely say that rad roaches in the past have not been anywhere near this terrifying, but they have not been harmless. If you remember in the opening of Fallout 3, they're basically murdering Butch Deloria's mother. So let me see here. I want to make sure, because I just realized I haven't been looking at my notes. I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything here. Oh yeah, so in the previous scene, Maximus killed 2 Deathclaws. We now know the NCR power armor has blades for close combat, a jetpack, and a dozen or so small rockets. Next up, yeah, I got everything from that scene. Yeah, okay, yeah, I've got everything from this scene. Okay, so we can keep on moving here. But yeah, I do have a kill count for Maximus in terms of Deathclaws. Yeah, this is, I would say this is probably open, this is definitely influenced by the Fallout 3 opening, but again, this is definitely far more terrifying than they've ever seemed in the past. And I think it's a question of numbers, and it's one of those things where individually rad roaches are not all that threatening, although we did see one basically pin down the snake oil salesman, and we also had them come in and nearly get Lucy in her sleep in the first or second episode of the first season. But yeah, in terms, when they come in dozens at a time and you're completely unarmed, it's got to be terrifying. So yeah, one of them goes after Norm. Norm hides behind a chair while the rest of them go running. This one loses interest and goes after more prey. This guy goes down, rad roach on top of him. Norm saves him, clubs this thing with a flower pot, and goes chasing after him. That's when Ronnie tells him, no, you can't come in here, pushes him down to the ground. Is getting ready to slam the door, and that's when a rad roach manages to stop the door from being closed, and then a bunch of them push their way through, and we get a slaughter of buds while Norm is out here under the table. Real quick, because I forgot, I am with G Fuel as an ambassador, or I don't know what affiliate, I don't know what the proper terminology is. Use my code iCartographer at checkout to get 20% off your order, and a little bit of that money goes to me. Got the Nuka-Cola Quantum flavor here. Oh yeah, no, that's some serious plot armor. Absolutely the case that his girl is the only one that survives. We'll get to that in a little while. Alright, so we got the Ghoul, who is now leaving the Lucky 38, heading through underground tunnels to the vault under the Strip. We got Robert House guiding him there, basically talking to him about the Enclave. And so we have confirmation here that the Deathclaws are on the Strip because of the Enclave. Now, exactly how they would do that, I don't know. I don't know if maybe Hank even somehow managed to get some BCIs into the necks of the Deathclaws, but we haven't seen that. Of course, with the most advanced version of the BCI, you don't see it. So I think it's entirely possible, because we saw that the miniaturization was actually was underway before Hank got there. So it wouldn't be terribly surprising to find out that Hank managed to use some of the smaller, less advanced versions of the BCI in order to get the Deathclaws in there. Basically mind-controlled Deathclaws, which the Enclave has done before. But yeah, we'll have to see. Enclave was using Deathclaws in Fallout 2, right? Hank probably did it in his power armor. It's possible, but as we saw with Maximus, power armor does not guarantee you survival when coming into contact with Deathclaws. So, okay. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, the vault under the Strip is a vault for management, but it was built for Vault-X investors. In this case, it is the Enclave. Robert House here claims also to have rigged every piece of gambling equipment in Las Vegas, along with his with rigging the entry to the vault under the Strip, and basically he's got control over their tech there as well. Yeah, he also confirms that Hank is a member of the Enclave here. Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, on the Strip, man, those teeth are really freaking gnarly. Like, when you get the close-ups on them like this, where you see there's like multiple rows of teeth, freaky looking. And then what is that? They've got these little spikes here on the chest. I don't even think I noticed those before. But yeah, Okay, so Maximus fighting the Deathclaw manages to cut its arm clean off right there. I didn't get a shot of that, unfortunately. Comes in and starts biting his head, and that's when he manages to blow its head off with one of his rockets. And then fires another rocket, which misses this Deathclaw entirely, and he realizes, oh, I'm out of ammo now. Let's see here. Yeah, he rigged the casinos, yeah. Don't tell him what happened when the courier rolls in, yeah. So yeah, Deathclaw is coming in here, and it starts beating the crap out of Maximus. That's when the Freesiders, instead of helping, decide to start gambling, betting on how long it'll take Maximus to die. We got Shotgun Jeff over here, who was in the Atomic Wrangler in a previous episode as the bartender. He's betting 50, I think it's 50 caps that he lasts 5 minutes, something like that. You got the other guy betting 20 caps he'll last 3 minutes. And then Thaddeus comes in waving his arm, throws it on the ground to get their attention, and then bets 500 caps that Maximus will live, and drops them all on the ground. And he gives us one of the best lines that he produces here, which is, "I used to make money for a living." Love that line. Let's see here. Yeah, in this scene, Maximus kills a Deathclaw, which means he's up to 3 in this episode, 4 in total. And then we got Dogmeat there, who seems really excited about what's going on. Next, we get back to Lucy, who's now leaving the area where she killed Diane Welch, the mainframe area, and we get this kind of like amazing area here. Like, this place is absolutely enormous. I would not even be slightly surprised to find out that there is an enormous amount of this underground base that we haven't seen. One sec. Sorry, still have a cough from my flu. Okay, so yeah, she's basically just trying to come to terms with the fact that she just murdered a woman's head. And once again, after having had clean clothes for about 5 minutes, she now has blood-stained clothes again. Hoping that Fallout 5 is in Colorado with a new expedition feature that lets you go to Cali. Yeah, that'd be interesting. So we got the ghoul continuing on his way in, and again, while she's thinking about this, that's when her father shows up. Asks her why she did what she did. She asks who was that, and he reveals that it was Diane Welch, a congresswoman from Glendale. Yeah, murdered a woman's head. What do we got here? Oh yeah, he starts telling her that she her personality type, according to Myers-Briggs, was ISTP, which I had to look this stuff up because I don't know if I've even ever done a Myers-Briggs personality test. ISTP indicates introversion, sensing, thinking, and perceiving. The exact opposite of this would be ENFJ, extroversion, intuition, feeling, and judging. There are 16 different personality types based on these 4 different pairs. So again, it would be I or E, S or N, T or F, P or J. And yeah, she is, again, introverted, sensing, thinking, and perceiving. So yeah, she's like, why would you do what you did to her then? And he's like, oh, Daddy's job is complicated. Yeah, she's obviously upset about this and asks what he's up to. Moving on here. We got House confirming that the president at the time that Cooper handed the diode over to was indeed a member of the Enclave. I think that's it for that. Okay, so we now get to McCarran Airport. I think this is McCarran Airport. I doubt this would be LAX, because I figured they would be leaving, not drinking champagne. That's the kid on board. So yeah, they're basically thinking that things are over. They're getting ready to go back to LA, and they're then talking about going on to Bakersfield, in her case, and he suggests that they move on to Colorado instead. Music's a tad louder. Okay. I'll see if I can find something here that works a little better. God, I don't see. Literally, this is down to the lowest level it can. Okay, maybe get it slightly lower there. Let me know if that is better. Because again, I've got it turned down in my headphones, so I might not notice when that's going on. Okay, so yeah. Then we see. Okay, again, Ghoul's still going. That Hank is now engaged to Stephanie after a single night. And so yeah, Barb congratulates them, and so does Cooper, and yeah. He's basically saying, I'm going to see if I can get Bud Askins to give her a job. And so yeah, they head off towards their plane. Barb's pretty happy with their outcome in Vegas, which I would definitely have to say that Barb and Cooper here are probably closer than they have been in a long time, despite the pretty terrible argument that they got into when they're in Vegas. Because obviously Cooper basically was saying he didn't know who she was. She was evil. So yeah. Should show any more worlds becoming Fallout IRL. Hopefully not. Let's see here. Where was I? Yeah, again, they seem to be more on the same page than ever before because, again, now they at least know what's going on. They both know that they know what's going on behind the scenes. And Cooper also knows that Barb is not on board with the idea of causing the apocalypse. And, again, they both think that they just did what they could to stop the apocalypse from coming. We get this nice little shot of them walking past this billboard. Another one here with Bobby apartment. And then all the phones start ringing. All of the payphones at once start ringing. So we get the ghoul again, still going through the tunnels, getting deeper in, and we once again have this confrontation here between Lucy and her father, and she's basically just trying to figure out what is his overall plan here. And he says miniaturization is the wave of the future, and shows her this BCI that, I mean, we're talking about something here where I think the original one was, I don't know, probably 2-3 inches long, probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches across, and they're now down to smaller than a dime, which is, that's a significant miniaturization. But yeah, basically then we've got the Legionnaire show up, former Legionnaire I should say, and stand there looking menacing, which definitely is the case. It's before this it seemed almost like they had, basically they were always just pleasant, pretty much kind of unthinking people, but we now see that it's entirely possible to have different emotions when they are controlled by the BCI. So anyway, Hank basically is just telling her, we're going to be together again. You're going to be my little girl again. And she says, you're insane. And we get, I think, one of his most disturbing lines here is, you don't mean that, or at least you won't mean that soon. Which is like, that is a disturbing thing to say to a loved one. Yeah, Lucy tries to fight back, manages to get a good swing in at this guy, but he manages to grab her and basically chokes her. The ghoul finally arrives at the vault, looks up in awe as he sees this facility, which is absolutely enormous. And we get this nice shot here, which some people were saying is Hank is crazier than usual this episode. Yeah, a little bit. We get this shot here, which I've heard people say that they thought this was a good kind of homage to back when Fallout was a isometric game, which I kind of agree with. It does kind of look like that a bit. Obviously the character would be a little bit larger usually, but anyway, moving on here, we get back to the street where Maximus is not doing well. Yeah, the sparks there are from the electrical box, not from him, but again, still betting going on in there. And I got this shot of dog meat barking, which I thought I had to put in here. Not because it's a relatively good shot, but because it's terrifying in terms of what I managed to capture right there. Look at that. That is a terrifying look. It's like something out of a nightmare. Anyway, yeah, she's like, you guys know if he goes down, we're all dead, and they're just like still making bets, and even she is kind of like, should we be doing this? And we get Maximus killing another Deathclaw, sending a nice big steel spike through it. One moment here. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention in the previous scene, Hank says that the BCIs will soon be visible only by a small scar on the neck. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, he kills this Deathclaw here with a nice spike through it. But he's exhausted by this point, you can already tell. And that's when more Deathclaws are still coming. So it charges in and it gets shot through the eye, and that's courtesy of Thaddeus, who's now managed to shoot using his left foot as a rest for his gun while he still shoots with his left arm. And so in the first season, he basically talked about how he was a terrible shot without a scope, and we really see that when they arrive at the old radio station, and he fires off an entire magazine of rounds from his 10mm and hits nothing. And we see here that he actually is an incredible marksman when he has a scope, to the point where he can even use a single arm, his left arm, which I have to assume is his dominant one from the fact that he can still do this, and along with that can use his foot as a rest, which some people have pointed out, it's like, man, he's got to have like Teflon feet or tungsten feet or something like that, I think it's tungsten, to be able to deal with the amount of heat that would be generated when be holding this between his toes, which is a pretty sensitive area. But anyway, So Thaddeus kills a Deathclaw in the scene, or at the very least badly injures it. So overall, Maximus is still up to... Yeah, Maximus kills one, Thaddeus kills one. Maximus is up to 4. So far, 6 Deathclaws killed total. Yeah, incorporate skill sets is... Yeah, definitely. Again, he is actually good with the scope. He gives him a thumbs up. Maximus, though relieved, foolishly gives him a thumbs up as well, and that gives the Deathclaw an opening to come in and basically toss him to the ground. The Freesiders are getting a bit freaked out by this stuff. And again, Maximus is not doing well. And yeah, pinned to the ground by this thing. So we then get to, again, the miniaturized BCI that Hank is planning on implanting into Lucy's neck. And that's when this the former legionary gets an, I think it's a knife in the back of his head, or it's like some sort of spike that the ghoul can shoot. And he then I also got this good screenshot here where he shoots Hank in the ass. That is that's not what that looks like is what's happening right there, but that's what's happening right there. So do not like the logic of a mind control device. A button and a dial doesn't get people to do what you want. Well, again, the tech here is supposedly where it wipes your mind and replaces your personality with another one. So it's not something where he's actually mind controlling people, but he's making these people compliant and is then controlling that, basically telling them what to do. Anyone know if that's an alpha death? If that is alpha Deathclaw? I don't know if all the Deathclaws look pretty similar here. I don't know if there any one of them in particular we can point out as being the alpha. All right. So yeah, he basically says, "I would have shot you in the head, but I'm leaving that up to Lucy. It's her decision as to what to do." Tosses her his little tiny boot gun and basically says goodbye to her, walks off. And now she's sitting here figuring out what she's going to do with her father, looking over at the BCI as a potential thing here. It's like a radio dial. Yeah, the little remote is basically the ability to control the level of amnesia that the person that is implanted has. Yeah, imagine playing FOT with just a button and a dial. I mean, I feel like you could kind of see this as being a bit like the Mesmetron. And Hank kind of uses it like a Mesmetron in earlier episodes where he's literally just blowing people's heads up with it. Anyway. So yeah, we get to where Maximus's armor is completely screwed here. It's just not working at all. I think I've actually got my Deathclaw kill count off by 1. I do think that Thaddeus killed this one potentially. Although it could be... No, I think it's Maximus. I think Maximus sliced its jaw off here. That's how the games were originally played. Were they? Yeah, Pong definitely was. So yeah, I think I've got my kill count off by 1. I don't think that Thaddeus did kill this one. I think he shot it in the eye. It kept coming. Maximus killed it. And I think... yeah, so I think I double counted this one. Let's see here. Okay. So, with his armor completely destroyed, Maximus is remembering the past. He's remembering his father telling him, "You're a good boy, you'll be a good man someday." Crawls out of his armor and faces down the Deathclaws using a pool cue and a roulette wheel as a shield. The Freesiders realize that he's just a kid. Again, Shotgun Jeff goes and grabs his shotgun, goes to the door, and he's like, let's do it. And she says, "I'm not doing that." And so again, this is honestly a bit disappointing on the behalf of the Freesiders. It's almost like if you're not willing to defend yourself, like in any way at all, can you really complain when outside forces come in and take over? Like, this is easily the moment to take a stand and help. There's only a few Deathclaws left, and if you don't do anything, you're all gonna die. But anyway, yeah, I do like the HUD shot when he's downed. Yeah. Down like that, and you can see he's even got the little indicator there showing that he's missing his left arm of his armor, which in this case I think is just literally the shoulder piece is gone, and the other parts are extremely heavily damaged, which you can easily see. Like, look at the claw marks through that armor there. Now clearly the Deathclaw was not able to puncture his helmet by biting down on it, but anyway, moving forward. So yeah, again, he's remembering when he was rescued by Quintus. And I think this is Maximus becoming the man that he always wanted to be. Got the Deathclaw charging, gets shot in the head. Maximus looks up to Thaddeus to thank him. Thaddeus is like, no, it was that guy over there. Points over to this NCR Ranger sniping from the rooftop. Yeah, Maximus is becoming a great man here. And we get basically the recreation of the shot from the opening cinematic to Fallout New Vegas, which I've seen multiple different reactions to this. Some people mocking people for being happy to see it, and I feel like that's a really stupid way to respond to it. It's like, now it's one thing to basically be like weeping when you see this, but at the same time, like, this is an objectively cool shot that they've recreated with like real people and stuff like that, and I think it's a good shot. I don't know. Anyway, people are basically mocking it in the whole thing that they did when in the Ahsoka TV show when people were like, "Oh, he Vadered" or whatever. But yeah, I don't see that being the same sort of thing here. Again, it's a recreation of a great shot using real people. I just think it's a really good shot too. So anyway, and a great shot on the behalf of the sniper who hits the Deathclaw in the head, knocks a horn off, saves Maximus's life. And that's when we have the NCR troops march into Freeside. Now, I think that what this shows us, because you can see their uniforms are actually fairly clean. Now, excuse me. Sorry, I really want this cough to go, but anyway. Their uniforms are fairly clean. I think this is easily one of the best signs we have that, yeah, no, it's an excellent shot. Anyway, by the way, welcome to the stream, Lucas Rumfield. I think this is the best indication we have that there are significant NCR forces elsewhere, is the fact that we have these soldiers marching in clean uniforms. Now, if these were just like some remnant forces that were hanging out in some old, partially destroyed camp like Camp Golf was, then I think they'd be coming in just as filthy and stuff as those Rangers were that were in the Hilltop camp. So, yeah. The Ranger did say that. So we got these folks all marching in. Got the nice flag there at the front. And we have, again, the Ranger from the camp come forward and basically relieve Maximus of duty. He says, basically, you should probably get out of the way. We'll take care of the rest of that. And Maximus is like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. We then get back up to Hank and Lucy, who are now exiting the Lucky 38, and they are lucky to be doing so when the Deathclaws have all just been marching off into Freeside. One thing I will say about the Deathclaws here is their behavior reminds me of like a tower defense game where they come on one at a time, kind of like evenly spaced. And I will say that is a little bit ridiculous. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of excellent fighting and killing and stuff like that here, with Maximus doing his best to fight these things off. But it is kind of hilarious that they come on one at a time, especially because, like, if you play the games, you encounter Deathclaws, they do not come on one at a time. Like, the only way to have that happen is to have only one in the local vicinity. So, anyway. So, yeah, we got, again, Lucy and Hank coming out here onto the steps of the Lucky 38. She's still holding him at gunpoint. And we see that he's got the BCI in his neck. And we see that she's already holding the remote here. Probably couldn't figure out how to animate more than one properly. It would definitely be a thing to have multiple fighting him at once. Like, I'm sure that would step the budget up significantly. All right. So yeah, they're basically talking about, man, this would have been great to do before, to be able to come up to the surface together. And he's talking about how he just wanted to make things nice for her. Yeah, we got her. This gun is weird, by the way. I was looking at this and, like, it's got this, I assume this is based on a real gun, but there's like no actual trigger in this. This is the kind of just like a handle. I don't know if that's supposed to be the trigger, or if maybe even you just pull back on the hammer there. But anyway, so many protagonists would have died with the one at a time mechanic. Yeah. So basically, they're just discussing what are we going to do here, and Hank is considering what it would have been nice to go back to the vaults to see everybody, including Stephanie. He's like, ooh, Stephanie, because in the previous episode, Betty talked about how everyone was a bit afraid of Stephanie, and I think Hank here even was a little bit afraid of Stephanie. Probably seen something like that on Pawn Stars. Yeah, I feel like that's something you'd probably see on Pawn Stars. But yeah. So he's like, we're not going back to the vault, are we? And she's like, no, I'm going to interrogate you, then I'm going to turn you into the father I always thought you were. And so he basically just goes ahead, and she's like, so what were you actually doing? What was your end goal here? And he's like, well, I've already actually sent people out into the wasteland. They've got the BCIs like I've got here to where you can't see them. And they're carrying out orders that were set out centuries ago. And he says something here that I think is a weird choice for them to do, where he says that the vaults were never the experiment, the surface was the experiment, but that is definitely not anything that has ever been indicated previously. I mean, we know that there are a lot of vault experiments, like many different experiments in the vaults, and this is even something that's effectively been indicated previously in the show in the first season, when we're in the Legion of Doom meeting, and they're talking about the different experiments that they could run within their individual vaults, even right down to the fact where you got Repcon wanting to run a vault using a milk delivery robot, of all things. So, it's, yeah, simulation theory. Yeah, people have listed that as a concept before, and it's even a concept that's within Fallout 76 itself as like a canonical thing that Thomas Eckhart seems to have believed potentially that he was within a simulation and was to the point where he had to nuke a town in China in order to free himself and his people from the simulation. So, referencing aliens? I mean, it's possible. I don't know. It's hard to say. Anyway, though, let's keep on moving here. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I keep forgetting to look at my notes here. I think I've talked about most of these things here. Again, the overall kill count for Deathclaws, if I miscounted them, is 8, or it's 9 if I counted them properly. Okay, so we get to the point where Hank then just decides to sit down, and he reveals that he's actually got his own remote here, and basically just tells Lucy, "I love you." Lucy then sees the remote here, tries to stop him, but he fires it off. Now, I'm just going to say here, he takes a long time to come back around again. I don't think that he actually did it. I think that he faked it. Now, I could be 100% wrong here, but I think that basically what he just did there was nothing. Like, he basically, either the remote doesn't work, because I think, obviously she has a remote there, so it means he had a second remote with him. I don't know exactly if he was thinking exactly this situation might happen. I don't know if he was just being prepared, but I think it's entirely possible that he just faked wiping his own memory. Because again, it takes him a while to come around, and he does not show any of the normal traits that the other ones showed. The other ones were immediately friendly and happy and helpful, and like he's a little bit friendly here, but check the dial, it's on 20. Yeah, again, it's possible, but I think it's entirely possible that he also just faked it. So we'll see going forward. And yeah, he obviously does love her. He just has a very different view of how to show that, because obviously he's trying to make her love him by erasing her memory and stuff like that. But anyway, this is kind of a weird thing here too, where I noticed this when I was taking these screenshots. He's like, "You got a smudge," and and we see here, this is literally right before the next shot. There's nothing going on there, and then suddenly she's got the hair in the mouth so that he can then brush it out, and she's having an extremely hard time here with the fact that her father is effectively dead to her at this point. Like, it's not even the case that she's rejected him as a person and he's dead to her in that way. It's literally, if he did actually wipe his memory, then he's not who he was in the past. She gets up, wanders off down the strip, and that's when Maximus arrives. Again, I don't know why he would have had 2 remotes on him, unless one of them was for potentially the purposes of effectively faking the effect working on himself. It'd be weird otherwise for him to have 2 fully functioning normal remotes. I guess a backup, but anyway. Okay. So yeah, they meet, they embrace, and we get to the end of this scene here. They're finally back together again after having last seen each other at the Griffith Observatory back at the end of the last season. We then get back to Stephanie within the office with people beating down the door. Chet seems to be quite happy with the fact that he's managed to actually get people on his side for this. He's got a little bit of power for the first time. Starts beating on the door himself. Lucy pulls out Hank's keepsake box, opens it up. She can look quite terrifying when she wants to. Opens it up and reveals an Enclave Pip-Boy. Yeah, God bless the Enclave. God bless America and God bless the Enclave. Pulls this out, puts it on, and we got Davey out here. We need to be sending a strong message to management. Yeah, I was definitely not expecting an Enclave Pip-Boy myself. I was even thinking maybe FEV or something like that because of the previous talk she had with Betty about the fact that she was going to send them water, but whatever happens in the future, we don't have control over that. But yeah, then we have Irv who changes the chant to death to management, and that's what they start chanting after that. Chet actually looks a little bit uncomfortable when they start chanting death to management. We then get to Stephanie booting up the Pip-Boy, which then initiates an emergency Enclave frequency. I was thinking Enclave related, but didn't think Pip-Boy. Yeah, no, it's definitely... An Enclave Pip-Boy was nowhere near what I was imagining she was going to be pulling out of this keepsake box. She then puts out a call, which this thing is crazy. It's either got to be piggybacking off of the Vault's equipment, or it's like crazy level of technology that she'd be able to call people from underground, from as far underground as they are. If you remember at the beginning of the first season when we see them ride the elevator up, or they get to the top of the elevator and you look down, you can see how far down Vault 33 is. At least 2 remotes would offer 2 buttons and dials for controlling the entire human body. Yeah. So yeah, she puts out the call to the Enclave, tells them initiate phase 2. And that's when we get back to the Enclave base from the first season, where we can hear this coming in here. Chet remembers the writing on the wall. Yeah, because that was literally the phrase written in blood on the wall. It was death to management. We get to this comm station 4. I don't know. So I was not sure if this was potentially the name of the base, comm station 4, or if that was specifically this terminal is a station 4 within the comms office. Regardless, yeah, we get the transcript of Stephanie Harper, Hank McLean's wife, and then we see phase 2 initiation request received, and it activates. And we get to then hear all of the broadcasts coming through, indicating that the broadcasts got through. Yeah, probably the terminal. The broadcasts that have been coming through all season have gotten through. So that's Hank's initial broadcast where he's like, I've gotten here, sir. Nobody knows, Vault-Tec knows I'm here. We also have Norm calling out to his father, asking what's going to happen to our vaults. And we got Stephanie calling in to activate phase 2. We then get back to Norm, back at the Vault-Tec headquarters. Yeah, I'm interested to see if it's going to be NORAD, if we're going to be under Cheyenne Mountain, or what's going to be happening there. People have pointed out that Cheyenne Mountain, I believe, was within a previous Fallout. Specifically, I can't remember if it's Tactics or Brother to Steel. Regardless, anything but the numbered Fallouts, so we're talking 1, 2, 3, and also New Vegas, and 4 and 76, anything but those are non-canon unless they are called upon within canonical materials. So what happened at Cheyenne Mountain is not specifically canonical, again, unless it's specifically referenced within the show or within the games. So it's entirely possible that they just rewrite everything that was happening there here now. Assuming phase 2 is FEV, it seems like it probably is. Probably already hooked into the Vault's water system. That would be crazy. I mean, that's entirely possible. Yeah. Hank planned on using the BCIs on mutated folks. That would be also very interesting. Basically, kind of in effect what the Master was attempting to do. So. Oh, Van Buren was supposed to take place around Colorado. I remember seeing some of the design documents for that where they talk about, I think Denver they called Dogtown. So, yeah. How'd I enjoy the finale? Oh, it's good to see you there. I just realized you just came in there. We'll get to that here in just a minute. We'll finish up the season, then we'll finish up the episode, then I'll talk in general about the thing, but we'll go through individual scenes here. So again, Norm crawling out from under the table. That is just grim from the rad roaches here. Yeah, the room is entirely bathed in blood. Everybody is dead except for Claudia, which again, that is some high-level plot armor there. It is neat that she managed to kill one of these things using a screwdriver here, but Norm basically picks her up, carries her out. And I have no idea in the slightest how he managed to get her down all the way to the ground floor. Because, again, the elevators are not in service as far as we know. So he must have had to carry her all the way down the stairs. And then he's got this harness hooked up, too. It's like, where did you get the harness to go to this cart? Was this already something set up maybe by Barv and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. The two women that were from Philly that were in there. Anyway, that is... I mean, he's a pretty small guy. It's kind of crazy to think that he could have managed to pull her all the way down to the ground floor. Anyway, though. We get back to the ghoul within the strip vault, the vault for management, whatever, and he's heading into the cryogenic biorepository. At the same time, we see in the past, we see Cooper picking up... what happened? Yeah, that's another question. What happened to all the other roaches? In fact, again, back to my notes here. Because I keep forgetting some of the stuff that I put in here. Oh, yeah. It's weird that Phase 2 is either very specific to those vaults or is something... like, it's got to be very specific to the vaults. Because otherwise, why is it not something that would have been activated by previous members of the Enclave? Anyway, though. Yeah, again, like I said, I don't know how Norm and Claudia got out of the building, how she's alive. And yeah, I wonder where all the rad roaches went after killing the buds. It's a very good question. How did that happen? But yeah, so we got Cooper here, who's picking up one of the dozen ringing phones, and it's House on the other end saying, "I didn't do it." Poor Cooper had to go through the unskippable dialogue before he could see his family. Yeah. So yeah, Cooper is basically being told, whatever happens, I didn't do it. And we see this gentleman back here with an earpiece in, and this guy here with a much more obvious earpiece in. The second I was, because I transcribed this episode as I was watching it, and so the second I paused it and saw HUAC agent, I was like, oh crap, that's too bad, Cooper. It's probably Bud's plan. Hank is the only one part of the Enclave. Yeah. Yeah, it seems that way. But again, so it's hard to say because again, Ronnie was 100% on board with we got to get to Phase 2. And when they get to the Vault-Tec headquarters, he's talking about calling the investors. And we learn that the vault on the strip was the vault for investors, and that's effectively the Enclave vault. So again, it's difficult to say. It could well be that almost all the buds are members of the Enclave. I think that from what we've seen of Betty with her conversations with Stephanie, she has no interest in doing that stuff. She seems to just want to keep her people alive. But yeah, I don't know. We'll find out more next season, I suppose. Okay, so again, as soon as I saw this was a HUAC agent, I was like, that's just too bad for Cooper. Because if you're unaware of what the HUAC is, it's a organization from the 50s, the House Un-American Activities Committee. They basically investigated communists. What I said when I was reviewing the first season, if you'll remember, is that I believed that what they were going to end up doing is turning it so that Cooper was considered to be a communist. Because, again, I saw that they were replacing him with Vault Boy on the billboards. So it was clear that at some point Cooper was going to be out with Vault-Tec. And it seems that right here, yeah, McCarthy's people, effectively. I mean, it's not, it's one of those things where McCarthy was the most prominent figure there, but it wasn't just McCarthy. But yeah. So yeah, he's realizing he's cooked here. We get a little view back when he's handing off the diode to the president, and we got Barb looking on a little bit concerned. Again, we get back to the ghoul within the vault. He's heading into the biorepository here, and that's when he finally finds the cryotubes for Barb Howard and Janie Howard. He tells Robert House to open it up, and it opens, and they're empty. But he does, and so then we go back to the past. We see him drop the phone here, and we see, this is a couple minutes later, we later see him talking to Barb earlier, but him being handcuffed in public and hauled off. And this is one of those things where it's like they so easily, obviously, could have just waited to pick him up when he got home. But they wanted to do this in public in order to embarrass him and to basically bring on the public humiliation of a suspected communist. Which I assume is entirely related to what he was doing with Moldaver, because it's kind of nuts that he helped them out as much as he did. By them, I mean the Enclave, by handing off the diode to them directly, and then they immediately accuse him of being a communist. But, again, he didn't know he was handing it off to the Enclave. So, anyway. So, yeah, they're hauling him off. And basically, what we find out is he basically tells her to let him take the fall for it. But, again, we'll see to that in a minute. Anyway. He looks down at the pod, notices the postcard here from Colorado. Yeah, Enclave hates loose ends indeed. Turns it around. Colorado was a good idea. I kind of weirdly, it almost looks like there's a extra period here. I didn't really know why that was the case, but anyway. So he finally knows. He says he finally knows that his family's alive, but that's not really what I get from this. What I get from this is that his family was alive at some point. Now my bet is because it's a story, they're going to be alive. I don't know exactly in what state, if they're going to be in pods, if Barb's going to be a ghoul. I don't know. We're going to find out eventually. But yeah, he finally has a new lead to go on, and again we see him here telling her let him take the fall. She didn't know anything about it. She initially is kind of resistant to this, but he's like, we got to do this for Janie. And she basically lets him get hauled off. And we now see him taking off the Pip-Boy, leaving Robert House behind, and heading off. House did call him a commie supporter. Yeah. Well, again, because the whole thing with Charlie Whiteknife, where it's like Moldaver's group is accused of being communist, but I don't know that there's anything that they were talking about that was actually anything communist related. And in fact, we see that calling their opposition communist was a common thing for the government to do. We see that in Fallout 76, where they call the Free States communists when the Free States were not communists, because they knew it was a way to turn the American public against them. I think it'll be a case where the wife is dead and the daughter is older. It's possible. The wife is going to end up being like deathbed old, and the daughter's going to be the head of the Enclave. That would definitely be interesting. Crazy amount of pressure Barb was under. Yeah, happy to see. Absolutely. That was something we did not see before. Before, it just seemed like Barb was 100% on board with nuking the country. But we see now that she was basically under the fear of having herself, her husband, and her daughter all killed. And that's why she was acting the way she was. But yeah, he leaves them behind. And then we get to the scene of the Legion marching into Vegas. And we got Kaisar Kulkin sitting aboard his palanquin being carried into Vegas. I love that I can now call him Kaisar Kulkin. Anyway, or rather the government wants the people to feel. Let's see here. Okay. So yeah, we can see this kind of wide shot of them marching in here. And we get to see Maximus and Lucy up in the penthouse with the Lucky 38, seeing the signal lost screen there. They head down and see the Legion marching in. And it's a pretty sizable organization here, it looks like. And this is, again, if this is still the same, if the Legion still has anything like the same organization it had in the past, this is not the entire Legion. This is simply the Legion that was on the border with the NCR, or the Mojave, I should say. And the rest of the Mojave, the rest of the Legion is off within Arizona. Let's see here. Yeah. Culkin is great, kind of quirky, but isn't everyone? Yeah. Can't wait to decide with Kaisar Culkin. So yeah, Lucy then is like, I could have stopped this. This is entirely my fault. This war is about to happen. And Maximus is like, yeah, welcome to the wasteland. Of course, because Maximus himself is effectively responsible for starting the civil war within the Brotherhood of Steel. So they're both effectively responsible for either kicking off wars or stopping the prevention of them too. Hi, Haley. Let's see here. Okay. So yeah, holding hands, looking off towards the future here. And then we see this little bit here where House pops on the screen, disappears again. And then we see here the ghoul facing off towards the mountains, heading off towards Colorado. So then we get the post-credits, or not the post-credits, even the credits screen here, where we can see a bunch of NCR posters on the wall of Freeside here next to... This is the Silver Rush, and we got the Atomic Wrangler over here. We get... See, this is... I did not like seeing this, because this feels like they're doing a full-scale retcon of what ghouls have always been. Because, again, when you play Fallout New Vegas, when you play any of the Fallout games, honestly, there is no mention of these vials that they have to use in order to keep from going feral. But now we've got this kind of thing going full scale here, as in something that the NCR has been doing in the past. And I don't know... It's just frustrating because it's such a dramatic retcon to what ghouls have always been. Anyway. So yeah, we get to a recruiting desk here within Freeside. And then we pull out a Freeside here and we see the Legion crosses, Legion flags, Legion camp. And we close out on a shot of Take Your Family to the Rockies. Really glad Lucy and Maximus can bond over their shared grievances and their respected failures. Yeah, 100%. Hope we get to see a Lucy and House conversation next season. Yeah, me too. So then we get to the post-credit scene where we get to the Brotherhood within Area 51. Typical Bethesda retconning, add something that's not really discussed. But I mean, this is huge for retconning because we've had ghoul companions before. There are entire ghoul settlements, and there's never been any mention of this stuff in the past. Anyway. So yeah, we got Dane walking through this infirmary where there are a lot of wounded. We even get this kind of reference to like the opening scene from Fallout 4, the opening movie or whatever, where they're, in that case, they're repairing the guy's armor. In this case, it looks like he's getting some sort of shrapnel pulled out of his head or something like that. Dane arrives at the headquarters here. Let's see, I think Maximus is really the ghoul's grandson. It's possible. It's entirely possible. We'll eventually see. Yeah, Dane comes in. We find Quintus. Brings in this remnant, Dane calls it. That was requested. Quintus tells Dane to put it on the table. Dane does. And he's like, oh, Quintus the Unifier is dead. Quintus the Destroyer has been born. And opens up. Honestly, and like, I know there are some people out there that probably loved seeing this, but this made me cringe a bit because it's... because this is a massive piece of... feels like retcon as well. First of all, we got Liberty Prime Alpha. The original Liberty Prime under the Pentagon was itself a prototype that was not finished by the time of the war. And it was like a decade that the Brotherhood of Steel was working on it, trying to get it working before they used it during the battle at the Jefferson Memorial. And yeah, it's like, how many things have we seen with the Brotherhood have in the past that we can throw into the show? Powered by alien tech? Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's obviously going to be cool to see Liberty Prime in the live action show, but at the same time, again, it feels kind of ridiculous. Now, I will say that, yeah, Liberty Prime hasn't shown up in 76 yet. That's true. So I did think it was interesting that we got this little bit of detail here. Is this my last one? Yeah. Strategic Arms Division, U.S. Army, General Atomics, Robco, and Mass Fusion. So I don't know if maybe they're going to have it be... I cannot remember what that thing was called that Mass Fusion has. And I did a video on Mass Fusion. I literally can't remember what it's called. They had that piece of tech that they used. Oh, it's a beryllium agitator, I believe. That means they can basically dramatically improve the efficiency of their reactors. I assume that's what's going on here, but it's kind of crazy. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything here. Let's see. Oh, something I forgot to mention. House clearly had additional plans that he wanted to carry out with the ghoul, but the ghoul had other plans in mind. So what exactly those plans are, we don't know. We'll probably see them carried out with Maximus or Lucy or both. Let's see here. Yeah, Quintus has effectively declared war on the rest of the Brotherhood. But a lot of his soldiers are wounded. Dane isn't still in good standing despite the theft of the diode, meaning that likely no one knows that Dane was involved with that. Okay, so I've got 3 notes here at the very end. First of all, FEV never made an appearance despite the teasing of it, which I assume means it's going to play a big part in Season 3. Along with that, there's been no word on the water shortage in Vault 33 since that last scene between Betty and Stephanie, and prior to that it was Betty and Reg. And then we have nothing more on the mutant army that seems to be being built by Ron Perlman's mutant. So funny stuff on the walls in the background. Maximus. Yeah. No, yeah, I saw that too. That's some kind of stuff you can kind of see in the background of the games a lot, where people will just put some stupid little bits of graffiti here and there. Okay. So in terms of my overall view of the episode, I will say that, and let's say of the season as well. For the episode itself, it felt more like a mid-season finale rather than a season finale. There's so many storylines that just do not feel like they got adequately resolved. It feels like something like this should be the break before we come back in for... And honestly, I think instead of 8 episodes, instead of this being the season finale of an 8-episode season, this feels like it should have been episode 8 of a 10 or 12 episode season. and we could have gotten some more actual closure on some of these storylines here. Now, a lot of the stuff that I saw, I did like. But again, I did not like seeing the Liberty Prime stuff. Again, I will love seeing a live-action Liberty Prime, but I still think it's kind of dumb for them to introduce it into the story. Especially because how is Quintus going to build Liberty Prime when they are under siege right now from other branches of the Brotherhood of Steel, and again, a lot of his soldiers are already horribly wounded. A lot of open plot threads, yeah. I was thinking the Super Mutant was Cooper's war buddy. I don't know, maybe. It's possible, but... I feel like there would have been some mention of that, because I feel like either one of them would have mentioned that, and I feel like, again, because the actor was a different actor too. It was Ron Perlman specifically. It feels like episode 8 of a 20-episode season, possibly. I really do I miss when television was more episodes in a season, and when they came every year. That's the kind of crazy thing. It's like the same thing with like Stranger Things season 5 came years after season 4, and it was like a decade overall that the entire show was running, and there were only 5 seasons in that entire time. I really wish television would get back to producing. It doesn't even have to be 22 episodes. Let's even say it's like 16, and they do it every year. Why does it have to be 8 episodes every other year? It's crazy. Anyway. So yeah. There are a lot of plot threads that feel like they did not get a adequate conclusion, and it feels in a lot of ways like this was, I've seen people use this term, and I agree 100%, a bridge season. Basically something that you don't get really clear, like, endings on, and it goes, like, we get proper clarification and closure on scenes in the next season, which, again, when's that going to be? Is that going to be 2028, I mean? It's going to be crazy to see. At least 15, yeah. Hollywood Entropy, yeah, feels that way. No, yeah. So yeah, in terms of the overall season, that's my general feeling there. In terms of the episode, again, I would have liked to, like, okay, for example, the Legion. The Legion was built up all season long. I think they are actually in the very first episode. I think that's the one where Lucy ends up being kidnapped by the Legion. And we finally get the Legion marching on Vegas in the very last few moments of this episode. And it's just, it's frustrating. So if we can go over the individual characters, though, and we can talk about what kind of happened for them. So Lucy, looking for her father, looking to bring him to justice. She found her father, didn't really quite manage to bring him to justice, unless you consider the fact that he, as a person, really no longer exists. Second episode, yeah, maybe. I don't remember, honestly, at the top of my head. Okay, the Ghoul, looking for his family, has a new lead on that. Finally knows that they were alive after the bombs. So that's some good advancement for him. Maximus started off the season basically as an adherent to Elder Quintus. Now seems to be his own man, seems to be a proper good man now. I'll say that. Miss growing up with and getting to know Hollywood actors. Yeah. No, it's definitely a different situation now. Cooper Howard, which, like, even Walton Goggins says that he never considered those two characters to be the same person, the Ghoul and Cooper Howard, which, again, they're such different people that, yeah, it's easy to see why that's the case. Cooper Howard, we now have seen him try to do some action to prevent the bombs. We see him now better acquainted with his wife, the two of them on the same page. What? Sorry, one second. My wife just texted me. Oh my good lord. That's inappropriate. Anyway. Last Son of Shady Sands, yeah. I would definitely say that's an appropriate title for him. For Maximus, I mean. Cooper Howard, now has moved forward in his storyline, going from the spokesman for Vault-Tec to being an accused communist outcast. Barb Howard, we've seen go from being a happy war criminal to being a threatened and resistant individual trying to fight against the system. House was basically introduced this season. Yes, technically he existed in the past season, but not really, because that was different character. Really, it's his double. I've seen an interesting theory that House's double is a member of the Enclave, and that is who Hank was calling out to, which I think would definitely be an interesting concept there. I don't think that's the case, but it's entirely possible, and it would be pretty interesting to see. Especially because of the way that Hank reacted to seeing House, the fake House, within the boardroom meeting. And the way that he responded to Hank as well. It would be definitely interesting to see. Can't take ownership. I saw it on TikTok, and I'm sure they stole it from someone else too. Okay, yeah. Who else? Stephanie went from being basically just a Bud's bud to being a former Canadian. Well, technically still, I guess, would probably consider herself Canadian. I don't know what she considers herself to be. Kind of a psychopath. Or a sociopath at the very least, where her entire goal is nothing but survival regardless of the people she has to destroy along the way. We also saw her becoming Hank's wife. I've seen an interesting theory as well that Stephanie is, well, no, not Stephanie, sorry, that Chet Jr. is potentially actually Hank Jr. Because of the fact that Stephanie and Hank are actually married before they go into Vault 31. So that's an interesting concept. Chet basically comes into the season as Stephanie's Manny and ends up being effectively kind of a leader of the resistance movement against her. Davey is pretty much unchanged. We still don't know where Woody is. Woody is potentially dead. As we talked about last time, though, Woody could well be within Vault 31. Like, literally, just basically thrown into Vault 31 to die. We'll have to see if there's any more to come with that in the future. Reg, as far as we know, is the head of a snack club that is doing all it can to resist Betty in the middle of an ongoing water shortage. Betty, again, was a former overseer from Vault 31 that is now seemingly trying to do everything she can to simply keep her people alive. That seems to be her story arc here. I feel like we really kind of didn't get almost anything out of 33 this time. Like, we've seen them, the Vault Dwellers kind of rising up to resist Betty, but I feel like that was the Vault with the least story progression of all the Vaults. That's your Evil Snack Club, yeah. With so what's it called? It's inbreeding support group. Victims of inbreeding. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, though, let's see if there's any more storylines here we got to cover. Yeah, we covered Maximus. Thaddeus started off as basically running a group of lovable Cockney pickpockets. No, I'm just kidding. Basically working with those kids within the Sunset Sarsaparilla bottling plant. Went from that to, I would say, becoming something of a hero in his own right. When you consider the fact that he definitely seems to be becoming something, potentially a centaur, definitely not a ghoul, but literally had an arm drop off and still managed to work as a marksman to try to save lives. So I would say that Thaddeus is, in his own right, becoming a better person, becoming a more impressive person at the very least. And, okay, so Quintus started off the season basically trying to unite the Western Brotherhoods against the Eastern Brotherhood, and now seems to be trying to make war against all of them. Dane, I feel like hadn't had much in the way of character development across this season. Was the one who stole the diode, handed it off to Maximus so that Maximus could carry it somewhere else safe. But yeah, seems to be living undiscovered as a resistive element within the Brotherhood. Who else do we need to talk about? Norm. Norm started off locked in Vault 31. Managed to probably kill Bud Askins. It could well be that Bud is just stunned, kind of knocked out, and that trash can overturned in Vault 31. I would not be surprised at all, though, if he's dead. Either way, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back at some point in the future. But now he's led the Buds out of the Vault to the Vault headquarters. Now knows a little bit about FEV, almost nothing, but very little, and now has his companion, Claudia, who he's looking to save. Becoming a Snallygaster? I don't think so. That'd be great, but no. If you're unaware of the history of Snallygasters, they were created with a specifically created strain of FEV within the Westack Huntersville facility, in the same way that Grafton monsters were. I did see somebody suggesting he's becoming a floater, which would also be hilarious. But no, I would think Centaur is the much more likely one. The fact that his arm dropped off when like every Centaur you see and all the concept art and within the games having no arms, that seems like the most likely one. So, but is there anybody else that I'm not thinking about? Covered Maximus, the Ghoul, and Lucy, obviously those being the most prominent ones. I think that's everybody. So again, in terms of what we should expect to see in Season 3. At this point, obviously, Liberty Prime Alpha, which I still have on the screen here. Along with that, I think we're going to see something of that mutant army. Didn't Cooper claim that only one diode was produced? Cooper doesn't claim that. House does. House claims that only one diode was produced. Anyone remember if he created it in Season 1? Yeah. So yeah, House, when Cooper is, not the Cooper, when the Ghoul is basically threatening to shoot the diode, he asks, what happens if I shoot this thing? And House says only one was ever created. It'd be a new thing in science to observe it. So yeah, we know that there's only one diode that has been produced. At least that's as far as we know, and as far as House knows. It could well be that there are more within the Enclave facility. The thing that doesn't make sense to me is why the Enclave wouldn't be using it within their facility. I mean, if this thing is literally capable of providing effectively infinite energy, why would they not be using it? Anyway, so again, what we should expect to see in Season 3, obviously a Brotherhood Civil War, potentially the arrival of the Commonwealth, and something regarding Liberty Prime Alpha here. With Vegas itself, we should be expecting to see a war between the Legion and the NCR. Now, whether or not House gets involved with that, we'll just have to wait and see. I could easily see him managing to get his Securitrons online. I'm sure he's got Securitron production elsewhere other than just under the... obviously he had the whole facility at the dam, but I would not be surprised if we discover that that he has additional production facilities for these things that the AI will take over and produce more. Vault 33, we're going to have to see what happens with that whole vault cluster in terms of potentially, my guess is that's where we're going to see the FEV making its appearance. And specifically something related to the Enclave and their Phase 2. Let's see, anybody else? Yeah, the Mutant Army, again led by Ron Perlman. We haven't seen anything of that since the Mutant dragged Cooper off to that little tiny town with the Mojave Mission School. Is there anything else that we need to remember here? Norm seems to probably be going back to the vaults. At least that's my guess. Wonder House will try to recruit Maximus. Yeah, maybe. It's possible that the House will try to recruit Maximus or Lucy or both. We'll just have to wait and see exactly what happens there. I think that basically... Oh, jeez. Cooper, obviously heading off towards California with Dogmeat to go try to find his wife. Now, if that's going to lead him to Cheyenne Mountain or whatever that facility is that we've now seen in both seasons, we don't know. It'll be interesting to see exactly where that goes. Now, that could also lead him through Zion Canyon, which would be interesting if he decides to go that way. And then Zion National Park, and he goes through there and then goes up through the Grand Staircase, just like the... I can't remember the name of the dead horses. I can't remember the friendly natives fleeing up out of the way they fled. If you do get them to flee, rather than killing off the the legional lined tribes. So yeah, it'd be interesting if we could manage to see Joshua Graham at some point. Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see exactly what we get. Now again, it's we don't know when that's going to happen, but so yeah. Again, my overall impressions of the season, I would have liked to see more storylines reach a conclusion, but I'm excited to see what we get next. So that's what I'll say. And so a lot of the shots that we did get to see were very cool. I like to see a lot of the facilities. The Randall Clark kids, yeah. A lot of facilities we got to see were pretty cool. I really liked seeing the vault under the strip. We still don't know what's going to happen with all the people that are currently equipped with the BCIs. We don't know what's happening with the people that Hank says that he sent off into the wilderness with the BCIs. We also don't know if Hank himself actually has had his mind wiped. It's possible that he has. Again, I think it's also entirely possible that he hasn't. So anyway, though, I think that'll do it for now. I'm still working on the Aquila City lore video. Now that the Fallout TV show is over for now, I can definitely spend more time on that. The way it has been, I've been having to spend the second half of every week working on getting the transcripts together, getting the screenshots together, getting notes made on this kind of stuff. So I definitely have cleared up some more time to work on this video. I want to get it out within the next couple of weeks. So for now, though, I will see you all next Friday, and we'll see what we have to discuss at that point. Again, what I want to do as soon as I finish this Starfield lore video is move back into covering Fallout 76 and the Burning Springs area. So it's been great to hang out with y'all. It's been great to talk to everybody here, and I will see you all next Friday to talk either potentially about the video. I doubt it, because again, I still have to finish the script before recording it, and this is going to be over an hour-long video. So it's been great to talk to you all. Thanks, Lucas Rumfield, for being a what's it called, member. And I will see you all next Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody.